Welcome to Biz Dev Live. This is the Biz D with the C. I am so excited to bring you Diane Boursiquot-De La Cruz today. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk real estate. We're going to talk about, we're just getting into it. 2 years of doing a cooking show. I was learning stuff that I didn't know about Diane. We're going to get into it all and more right after the Biz Dev theme. Stay with me.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Rockstar Realtor Diane Boursiquot-De La Cruz offers her clients distinctive white glove service, a true curator of all things home. Diane caters to the needs of her clients and goes above and beyond. As a certified mentor, Diane gives back to junior agents that are new to the real estate industry by training and guiding them to be successful real estate professionals. Diane Boursiquot is passionate about serving the community. She is dedicated to the long-term success of young people. She serves as a devoted volunteer for several nonprofit organizations such as Habitat for Humanity, American Red Cross, Boards of Cooperative Educational Services, and the Association for the Visually Impaired. Diane is recently married to her longtime boyfriend. They are expecting their first child together. Diane Boursiquot-De La Cruz was born and raised in Rockland County, New York. She is a graduate of New York University with a Bachelor's of Finance and dual concentration in business management. Diane's skills make her a formidable negotiator for her clients with over 10 years of experience in accounting, working in NYC and Westchester. Her education experience make her uniquely qualified to get you the best deal possible. Diane, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Oh, good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
All excited. And just a little personal note about Diane, like we're in Master Networks together, Mount Pleasant chapter, and she is usually, if not always, the best dressed person in the room, a unique style, and she always brings it. And I'm so excited to talk to you today because whenever I talk to somebody that's worked with you on the professional side of things, they always have raving reviews and beautiful things to say about you in the realty space. I was talking to Sammy Sunshine the other day, who's a realtor herself. So it's a big deal. I think when somebody that's in the same kind of career track says, oh, she's awesome, she's somebody that really brings it every day. So really an honor to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cameron, for the invitation. Like, I appreciate you so much. I love your introduction, by the way. Oh, very catchy. Oh my gosh. I hope it doesn't end.
So talk to us about what you're doing right now. Obviously, we talked about not only the fact that you're a realtor, curator of all things homes, but you do a lot of training and mentorship within your organization. So talk to us about all of that and kind of, we didn't talk about areas and where you work and how you do your thing. So please kind of put some color in all that for us.
Yeah, so I'm a real estate agent. I actually just passed my New York State broker exam. So soon I'll be becoming an official New York State broker. And that gives me the ability to actually branch off from my current company, which is eXp Realty. And let's say if I wanted to open up my own brokerage in the future, that's something that I can do. So I service the greater New York area. I service Westchester County, Rockland County, which is my hometown. I also service Orange County. Putnam County is a new county that I've been diving into because of the demand of New York City buyers that are pushing forward and moving further north into Putnam and Dutchess County as well. So I like to tell people that I service all of the lower Hudson Valley. I am also actively recruiting new agents because there's only one me, and I can't be in every place at every time. So I actively recruit new agents that exemplify my work ethic, my dedication, and my passion to real estate. And I pretty much show them the ropes and, delegate them out to each county because I physically can't always be there. But my clients always want the Diane touch. And so that's what I'm currently working on. I'm also with child right now, so I can't necessarily be out doing too many showings like I used to. So I also rely heavily on my team of agents as well.
I love that. And congratulations, by the way. I
Thank you.
one of the things that early on I noticed when you were speaking and master networks and everything that you're very much big on, because we always talk about delegating and doing that kind of piece to your business. And that's how you grow your business. So I always appreciated that you brought that piece to it. I want to get into your history because I want to come back to the business model of real estate and all that in terms of business development. But I want to kind of get into a little bit of the personal, a little bit and your background. How did you get into real estate? I don't know how far back you want to go. I know before we jumped on, we talked about the fact that you're influenced heavily by your father and your mother, your father being a history teacher, your mother a nutritionist, your education. So kind of bring us into the life and history of Diane Boursiquot and let us know what's going on there.
Yeah, so I am a first generation American. My parents are immigrants from a small island called Haiti. And so they always instilled in us the importance of hard work and education. So when I graduated high school, I went down to Manhattan, NYU, and I studied business management and finance. And I worked in that sector for years. I climbed the corporate ladder. I did everything that my parents wanted me to do. And I just felt like my soul was dying. I didn't feel like I was necessarily impacting individuals or making a difference in people's lives. And so I was introduced to a business colleague of mine who is a realtor in the industry for 20 years. And she pretty much showed me the ropes. And I was reluctant to leave my 9 to 5, which was very cushion, a nice little nest egg that I had created. It was in the finance sector, and it was something that I knew was comfortable. And so she introduced me to real estate, which was something that I was always interested in, but I just didn't think I was brave enough to do it on my own. I've always had a passion for all things home. I love decorating. I love, you mentioned my style. I feel like the way that I look is an indicator or a representation of how I believe you should keep your home. Nice, tidy, and funky and different. Very unique sense of style. So she taught me real estate, and I went and I got licensed, and I started part-time. And this is going back 3 years ago. So I've only been in the real estate industry for 3 years. Before real estate, I was in the finance, accounting, business management sector, and I really hated it. I personally couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. And so I call Gloria Steppen like my savior that pretty much showed me another opportunity. So I started out part-time, and I was doing really well. I closed my first deal within 3 months, which is like unheard of in real estate, having no real estate background. And I found that I was really successful in it, and I was able to do it full time. So now here I am 3 years later as a full-time realtor and loving what I do, loving helping people, families, really achieve the dream, the American dream. And it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Well, I imagine I kind of captured a little bit of it, but what was the major difference between what you were doing in finance and real estate? What's sort of the game changer in enjoyment?
So I feel like in finance, which I'm really great at numbers, which I feel is an asset to me when it comes to negotiating. I break down the cost of properties, the supplies, the construction of a house. I'm able to analyze the sales in an area. And so that part is exciting to me because I am a good numbers person. Understanding how to ask for credits, all those things I attest to my background in finance. However, what I was lacking in my finance background and employment history was human interaction. I pretty much was in a cubicle, in an office every day. And I don't think I have an office personality. I feel like I'm more of a people's person, that I like to be in front of people. I like to be helping people. And so another difference is that I was working for a corporation that I was making richer, that I was literally building up. Whereas now I'm an independent contractor. I make my own hours. I make my own money. My salary is determined by me. And, that to me is empowering, being an entrepreneur,
Yeah, that's a great segue into the discussion on what the business model of being a realtor in real estate is. I definitely heard you before. Congratulations on getting your brokerage license, right? I mean, that's a big deal. So I think you're moving further into it. I think with any industry, there's always that sort of, there's that entry point, and then there's, I'm an employee. Yeah, right, exactly. That, you can, whether it's the music industry and you're an artist, or you're writing and producing, or you're the record label, or
you get all the credits, right? You get the
or you're
credit.
An individual bank branch versus the parent corporation, right? There's all these levels to all these different businesses and the business models that go with them. So talk to us a little bit about, you jumped from, kind of working for corporate, you got your, I'm assuming, your check, your benefits, all that, moving over to real estate. What did that business model difference look like, and how has that changed as you've gotten further into the industry? You talked about landing your first deal in 3 months. I know one of the big challenges with real estate, or at least from the outside looking in, is that yes, the money can be big, but it can be a long time between the time you actually make money and or not.
Right. And so going from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset was really the most challenging for me, because working for a corporation, you're pretty much told what to do, when to do, and the parameters and the guidelines that you need to adhere to. But when you start thinking bigger, grander, you start thinking about your future, and you start thinking about a legacy, and perhaps how you can actually grow yourself and your business individually, you start thinking on a larger scale. Right. So I went from an employee mindset, which was like, I was guaranteed a paycheck, I was guaranteed benefits, to like, literally, I need to find clients on my own. I need to brand myself. I need to market myself. I need to literally go out there and network and meet these influencers in real estate. And so I was very fortunate, like I said, that I had someone in the industry that kind of showed me the ropes. She's been there for 20 years. And she had her own brokerage. So when I first started, I started at an independent, small brokerage, which was the best thing for me. I was able to get training. I was able to shadow her. I was able to get one-on-one attention. And I think that flourished my whole career. That helped me learn quicker than your average first-time agent, your new agent. And that's what I attest a lot of my success to, is that I had so much help and I had so much support. Whereas, new agents that start out in a larger corporation, like, your Keller Williams, your William Raveys, these kind of names that everyone is familiar with, you really do get lost in the sauce because you're just another agent. And what I tell people is, getting into real estate, there's a very low bar of entry.
Yeah.
Having an NYU education, I was actually shocked how easy it was to really become an agent. And, the qualifications that New York State, requires. So I had to learn how to distinguish myself, how to set myself apart from my competition, because the industry is completely drenched, saturated by so many agents. And when my broker at the time decided to move on to a larger platform, an international company like eXp Realty, I actually was excited about it, because with eXp Realty, it's international. We have offices in London, South Africa, Mexico, South America, Canada. We're in all 50 states. So that completely broadened my scope of possibilities, right? So let's say you have a cousin in California that wants to sell their property. I'm not licensed in California, but I know agents that I've worked with in the past in California that I can refer to. You know what I mean? I can make sure that your cousin is in good hands and is getting white glove service as if I were over there personally servicing them myself. So I love where I'm going in my career, and I love where I am right now in my career because I just feel like the possibilities are endless.
When you started, and this was with Gloria, right?
Yes, Gloria Seppin.
Yeah. So when you started with Gloria, what company were you guys working with?
We were with Lighthouse Realty Group of Westchester, and so that was my introduction into the Westchester market.
Okay.
And so that's why the bulk of my transactions are Tarrytown, White Plains, Cortland Manor. I do a lot of business in Westchester because I was pretty much groomed in Westchester. All of my formative beginning years of real estate were in Westchester. So, branching out to the other counties were literally just a result of my success in Westchester. And so we started at a small brokerage, and then she decided to move over to a larger platform for more flexibility. It is hard being an independent broker because, all the bills fall on your shoulders, all the accountability, the responsibility, also the liability of your agents. If your agents violate human rights code, if they discriminate against an LGBTQ, client, that falls on the shoulders of a broker. And the consequences are pretty grave in New York State. Not only are you fined, but you can also face jail time.
Yeah, that's big. And so talk to us about the business model. I mean, how do you make money in your business? You talked about the fact that the real estate market, in terms of realtors, right, is flooded. And I see this, and I think that's one of the things, because I've as an entrepreneur myself, and you're always looking for a side hustle. You see so many people that have realty as a side hustle, and that the money is significant if you're able to sell a house, right? So I wonder, where it actually ends up benefiting you in terms of, all right, I have this finance background. I'm able to be successful in this. I know that you're mentoring other people. So what do you talk to them about in terms of how they will benefit? I know hopefully, with this interview today, somebody's that's looking to get into real estate says, oh, wow, like Diane's looking for somebody. Let me reach out and contact her. So what does that pitch look like in terms of how they'll actually produce income and what the timeline and investment is and all that jazz?
Yeah. So real estate can be very lucrative. And I realized that very early when I closed my first deal. I was like, whoa, they're giving me all this money. I was like, really? So yeah, it can be very lucrative. I myself am a top 5 producing agent of my team. And so the challenge, however, is finding the right company to hang your hat, to hang your license at. So a lot of brokerages, they take your commission splits. It's all about commission splits in real estate. Like how much money am I really going to take home after I close on this, $500,000 house, right? And so with real estate, I always tell people, you need to find a company that you're comfortable with. And I'm grateful that I'm with an international company that is pro agent, that isn't into paying, charging agents for desk fees. Most of my time is on the road. If not, I'm working from home, working on offers, studying, comps in the area, preparing for an open house or something like that. So I don't really spend too much time in the office. But if you work for certain brokerages, they'll charge you for office fees and desktop fees and franchise fees. And those fees, they add up. I like to say that it's kind of like your Verizon bill, right? They tell you it's only $49.99 a month, but you end up paying like $99 a month when you look at your bill at the end of the month. So my platform where I work encourages me to actually go out and hire new agents. So because I'm pouring into these agents, I'm giving them mentoring, I'm giving them training, I'm giving them all my tips and all my secrets that most salespeople do not share, right? You're not going to tell your competition how you can close this deal and how you're going to get $20,000 or $50,000 off this for your client. You don't really share that. But in my company, we're encouraged to do so. So I love helping a new agent because not only am I training new agents to actually have great work ethic and actually be new agents that can actually go out into society and be great examples, because like you mentioned, Cameron, a lot of people get a license and they do it part-time and it shows. You could tell the difference between a part-time agent and a full-time agent that is competent and is here full-time dedicated to a client. I always tell people, would you go to a part-time dentist? Would you go to a part-time lawyer? I wouldn't. I wouldn't trust my life in the hands of people that do anything part-time. So why would you trust the most important investment in your life with someone that does this as a side gig, right? So another lucrative part of my company is that I will gain monetary benefit from the sales of my junior agents. So I currently have 10 agents under me, right? Every time that one agent sells something, I myself, as their senior agent, will reap the benefits of the sale because I've trained them, I've taught them everything that they know, and because of my time and dedication and pouring it into them, I also gain monetary a gain from that.
That's awesome.
It really is fantastic because you know why? It takes the focus on, oh my God, I have to close this deal this month. I have to close this deal this month, or I'm not going to be able to reach my number, my goal, right? But if I know that I have a team of 10 agents under me, I know that's going to supplement my income every month, right? On top of that, I also have revenue share. I have profit sharing options for this company. On top of like just me actually closing deals. So I'm an active producing agent, but I also gain other forms of income from being under the banner of eXp Realty.
That's awesome. So we talked about kind of the compensation pieces of it. What, if somebody's actually interested in becoming a realtor working with you, the only reason I knew what you were talking about when you said comps was because I've watched a lot of Property Brothers kind of stuff.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No. That's
comparatives. I'm sorry.
No, but I think that kind of stuff, things like understanding curb appeal and understanding, if you're selling a house that, it needs to be inspected and, all the, I think things that probably come across very basic for anybody that has been in that situation of wanting to buy a house and going through that process, or being a realtor, kind of knows these things like the back of their hand. But it speaks to the work and the effort that you have to put out to be of service to the people that you're working with. So what are some of the things that people really need to understand in terms of like time commitment to sell a given house?
So that's a great question, Cameron. So I find that a lot of sellers are naive. And this market is fantastic. I tell people all the time, if you were ever thinking about relocating, if you're thinking about like, oh, I'm an empty nester, my children are grown, they're in college, it's just me and my husband or my wife, it's just the two of us. I mean, now is the time to really put your house on the market. But I feel like a lot of sellers are naive. It's kind of like I encounter a lot of sellers who, they're over there driving like a jalopy, right? But they think their car is like a Tesla or something like that. Them back to reality that, hey, your car is not a Tesla. So it's the same kind of thing with the house. People have sentimental value towards their house. They made memories in that house. They built families in that house. And so their idea of what their house is really worth gets lost very quickly. In reality, what their house really is worth, right? So it's educating the client. So what I do is every time I go to a listing appointment, I sit down, I have a catered PowerPoint just for that particular house, and I let them tell me their story. Tell me what you think are the values of your house. What are the features that you think, make this house worth what it really is? And then I educate them, and then I tell them the numbers, right? And I set up a plan. My latest listing sold in 48 hours. And the reason why it sold in 48 hours is that I prepared. It takes a lot of preparation. I had to declutter that house. I had to have a conversation with an elderly couple, say, hey, you have too much stuff in your house, and they're hoarders, but you have to be able to articulate that in a sensitive way so as not
to be clear, just because I think that's really good information, because that really speaks to the time commitment. So we're saying that it sold in 48 hours after it was put on the market, but all this that you're talking about is stuff that had to be done before. Right.
Before. I could not list it. I went there, I toured the house with them. I heard their story. I understood where they were. I asked them how much money did they owe left on the mortgage. I do my due diligence as an agent, and I speak to the town to make sure there aren't any permits or violations on the property. People don't think about that. I had a client, they decided to build a shed in their backyard, but they didn't get a permit for it. They never registered it with the town. So now you have a problem where you have new buyers that are asking for it to be knocked down prior to closing, right? So these are all these little tidbits and these little nuances that we don't think about before listing a house. But I do all my due diligence so that we can limit the time that the house is on the market. We can get top dollar for that house. And so I did a lot of preparing. I decluttered the house. I organized the house with my team. This is also the luxury that I have. Like I said, my condition is I'm currently pregnant. I couldn't lift, a dresser like I used to. I can't go into an attic like I used to. I can't crawl down to a crawl space basement like I used to. So it was a team of my other agents and I that decluttered, organized, and I staged the house. I literally envisioned, who do I see buying this house? Who's my target audience? Who am I going to market this towards? And after I come up with the marketing strategy on each house, because each house is different, right? I also analyze the cons. I try to get ahead of the deal. I want to anticipate, what are buyers going to say that they don't like about this house? And how can I flip it? How can I make that pro into a con? Or how can I really understand that this might be an Achilles heel towards the sale of this house? So after I do all that work, then we have a professional photographer that is fantastic. I will always, give business towards him because he listens to every nuance of what I say. If I tell him I want you to film this fireplace while it's lit, and I want it to be completely engulfed with flames, he'll take his time and he'll do that. If I say I want a sunset photo shoot, I want you to show up right when the sun is setting, because I want this house to be kissed by the sun at sunset. That's how much I pour into my listings and my clients, because I understand that there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of money to gain, but there's a lot of money to lose, right? So I prepare and I anticipate and I do my due diligence so that it's less headache for my clients, because they're already stressed. They're already overwhelmed, especially if you have an elderly client that is not tech savvy, that doesn't email, or their children live far from them, and they're empty nesters, and all they want to do is sell their house, but they just don't know how, right? So I take all that burden, all that worry, all that stress, and I take that on myself. And then we listed it, and it sold in 48 hours without an open house, because I'm like really weird about open houses during COVID. If I don't have to put this house on an open house, if I don't have to have 50 or 70 people marching through this house, then I'm going to prevent that. I'm going to do all that in my power so this sells on individual showings only.
That's amazing. And I think it speaks to the fact that, and I love getting into the nitty gritty of this stuff, because, going through the crawl space, right, lifting the furniture up. I think so many people look at whatever kind of career opportunity is. And it's sort of interesting because I think there's some people that would hear that and, you know, that's the stuff I enjoy. I like moving things around. I like getting my hands dirty. But there's other folks that are like, you know what, I need that office job. I need that cubicle.
Right.
That's where, and I think, you know, that's where it comes in. Like, you really got to understand what drives you, what you enjoy, and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I tell people that real estate, it looks glamorous from afar, but it's far from glamorous, right? And the reason why is because it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of behind the scenes work, but it's very flashy. It's very ego driven. It's very pretty, and but people don't understand the work that is being done behind the scenes before your potential buyer actually hits the front door of that property. And so I love being in the midst of, controlling the whole deal from start to finish. I love moving things and staging things. And that's also my passion with design and style, and understanding that, hey, that couch is too big and bulky. It's actually taking away from the beauty of this house. So let's get it out and let's put it in storage, or let's get a heap truck, for all the junk that you have, and let's just completely declutter this garage so that people could see the space, the possibilities, and they can envision themselves making memories here, right? Because that's really what a buyer's looking for.
Yeah.
They're looking for your memories. They don't care about your family and how many years you've been in this house and how you grew this family, and it's beautiful. They're looking about their family. How can I grow my family here? How can I make memories here? And if they cannot see that through the moment they set foot on your driveway, because it starts with the curb appeal. I've had clients that they turn around immediately. Diane, let's just go on to the next house. I'm like, but you haven't even gone inside. Oh no, I don't even like the way it looks from the outside. I don't like the driveway. There's too much clutter in the front yard.
Yeah.
They have no shrubs. There's no flowers, Diane. I've heard it all. And I'm like,
which are things that you can technically change fairly easily.
But it's all indicative of your buyer and your client. Right. Like, you have some clients that they're completely turned off the moment they see something in the driveway. And so having that experience of being a buyer's agent helps me to be a better listing agent, a better seller's agent, so that I understand what you need to move, what you need to stage, what they want to see once they come to the driveway that's going to get them into the front door.
Now,
right?
Can you also talk to us, because I think you bring up an important point, a listing agent versus a selling agent. And I think you do both. A lot of people do both. Is there any advantage of working with somebody that only does one or the other? And, should you do both? Kind of address all that.
Yeah. So I do both. A buyer's agent is an agent that represents buyers only. So let's say you want to purchase your house, you want to purchase a condo, you want to purchase a co-op. You would be seeking out a buyer's agent that would be representing you and your interest only, right? And then you have seller's agents, or listing agents, as they say, and that's the agent that's representing the seller, the owner, right? They're representing the interest of the seller, so they're not looking at the interest of the buyer, and vice versa. So I do both. There's also something called dual agency, where sometimes in a deal you find yourself in between both. I've represented both a buyer and a seller during a transaction, right? And it's a sticky and fine line that you have to walk, because you can't cater to one over the other, right? You have a fiduciary obligation by the state of New York to represent both parties equally. And it becomes challenging sometimes when you have buyers that want to negotiate certain things, and then you have sellers that refuse to concede to certain other things, right? But I always encourage clients to seek out a buyer's agent. And if you, for whatever reason, you don't want to work with me, but you make sure that the agent that you're working with has your best intentions at heart. Because, like I said, there's a lot of money at play here, and not everyone is here for the people. A lot of people are here because of the money. And so they will perhaps not fight on your behalf, not ask for that credit, not go back when that home inspection report said that there was mold, or it said that there was a caving roof. Maybe they won't say that, and that's illegal. But you have to understand who you're working with. So it's important.
I think that's big, because it goes back to the financial model. This is somebody that you don't know what the situation is. They just may be driven to sell. They may be in a situation where they haven't eaten, so to speak, in a while, and they need to sell that house. So they're going to do what
whatever they can, and they'll sit and they'll say, yeah. I spoke to the seller side. Oh yeah, and they really have it. Oh yeah. I tried to get that $10,000 off. Because you know why? Our commission comes off of the sale price, right? Our commission is based on that number. And so everyone's always chasing that higher number. And so sometimes that higher number is not in the benefit of the buyer, because who's paying for that, right? Your mortgage price goes up based on your sales price, right? Yeah. So you have to think about that. A $400,000 house.
Taxes too, right?
Taxes are something that you pay based on the municipality, but taxes are something that are factored into your whole mortgage plan. So as a realtor, I always speak initially to mortgage officers. I make that call, I make that introduction, because I want to understand what are the parameters of this buyer, right? So you can afford maybe a $600,000 house, but can you afford $20,000 taxes a year? Or is your budget only $10,000 a year in taxes? So I'm not going to show you a house that is at the top of your budget, but you can't even afford the taxes because the taxes are $21,000 a year. Why would I do that? Your mortgage officer is your financial person. That's your numbers person. That's who's lending you the money. So you either have to come up with a way, and that's a whole nother story. You could have co-signers, you can have your brother, your sister on a loan. You can have all kinds of different scenarios in order for you to qualify for more money. But that's something that I always discuss with the mortgage officer, because I'm your shopper. I'm your personal shopper, and I'm not going to show you a house that's unattainable. It's a waste of time. We're just entering, we're just going into a house just to go into a house, but you really have no means to afford that house, right?
It's a great way to turn people off too, showing me something that I just can't afford.
I know, and a lot of people do that because why? The top dollar is what your commission comes off of, and you want to push that bigger sale. If you're an agent that is not of integrity, if you're an agent that doesn't have the best interest of your clients at heart. But I don't look at numbers like that. I look at if I do a fantastic job with one client, that one client could be 3 potential clients, right? So I do the best of my ability with each client. I don't look at the individual number. I look at the potential, right? So my whole goal is to make raving fans of my clients, right? So if they love me, they're going to tell their sister. They're going to tell their neighbor. They're going to tell their cousin. They're going to tell their coworkers about me. So that's how I am able to not chase the dollar bill like that, but just rely more on my services.
What if you're in the middle of your process, right? And you are in a situation, you're working with a realtor that, is trying to sell your home, or you're in that situation where you're looking for a home and you're working with a realtor, a buyer's agent or a listing agent, vice versa, whatever situation you're in, and you just don't love this process. What are your options?
Right. So there are 2 things. There's a New York State disclosure form that's mandatory that you sign, right? But it's not a binding contract. It's something that the state forces us as agents to provide clients to educate them on who we are representing them. So if I was representing both parties, I have to disclose that, and I have to have the client sign off on that. Right? They have to understand that Diane is working for both parties. They have to understand that Diane is only working for your interest. I'm only representing you as the seller. I'm only representing you as the buyer. And then there's something called an exclusive agency agreement, right? And that exclusive agreement is a contract. Now that's binding, right? And that's a binding contract that tells clients that I'm your agent, and this relationship is only between you and I. Right? You can't go out and start shopping on Zillow or on Realtor.com for other agents and then going out to see properties with other agents. Our relationship is exclusive. And the reason why is, like I said, there's a lot of work that goes into being an agent. And so a lot of agents like to use that contract to bind their agents, their clients, so that they can't go out shopping with other agents, right? But if you're someone that hasn't signed a contract, you're someone that's literally just casually shopping, you haven't found that right agent yet, you don't click with anyone, you don't trust that, you haven't found an agent that you trust, that you want to make solely your agent, then there's nothing that's binding because you haven't signed anything. Like I said, the disclosure form is not binding. If things don't work out, and sometimes the feeling is mutual. Sometimes I find a client that I think is completely delusional. I find a client that I can't even pass you off to a junior agent. That's how, out of reality, out of touch with reality you are. So then I tell the client, you know what, I think that it would be best if we stop, doing business together, that perhaps you seek out another agent, right? And that usually comes when I feel as if my value is not being appreciated, my time and energy and effort is not being appreciated. So I'm like, I'm not going to pass this on to a junior agent because you're just going to treat my junior agent the same way that you treated me, right? So sometimes
that's a great business lesson for everybody all the time. Go where you're valued. If you're not valued, get out of that situation.
I always say that not all business is good business, right? I'm not going to work with someone that's completely irrational or doesn't understand what I'm providing, because what I'm providing is definitely different than your average agent.
So do you work with exclusive agreements? And if you do, when are those situations? Like, how does that come up? And when do you recommend that for an individual buyer or seller?
Great question. So I usually just use the disclosure form. I always tell people it's kind of like what Tina from Master Networks always say, I want partners, not prisoners. And I love when she said that, Tina Campbell said that, because I'm like, oh my God, that's how I feel in my business, right? That resonated with me, because I don't want to bind you into a contract and you don't feel comfortable a week or a month later or 3 months later, you don't feel as if you want to work with me anymore. So if you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you either. Because my reputation completely, you could find me on the internet anywhere. I'm not someone that's going to force you or force your hand to work with me. So I don't do the exclusive agreements. I did do the exclusive agreements when there was an issue earlier this year. If you can recall, in like January 2020, February 2020, the New York State government mandated that landlords pay realtor commissions as opposed to tenants paying realtor commissions. Usually, when you go out to rent a property, you have to have 1 month security, 1 month rent, and you have the 1 month broker fee, right? But during the beginning of the year, the state of New York flipped it, right? They made the burden on the landlord. And there was a lot of confusion during that time. So when I was working with landlords or tenants, I kind of had to have them sign the exclusive agreement contract, because it was just they didn't understand. A lot of people weren't educated. But now the system is back to the way that it used to be. Tenants pay the broker fee. But during that beginning of the year, 2020, it was very confusing for a lot of landlords and tenants. But I don't personally use the agreement because, like I said, if you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you either.
I love that, partners rather than prisoners.
I love that. When she said that, I was like, oh my God, that's how I operate my business. Like, if you don't want to be here, that's fine. Good luck. And I wish you the best.
So one of the things that I also appreciated from hearing your story when we talked earlier is that not only are you helping other folks in terms of buying properties and selling properties, but you're also in the game yourself. You're somebody that is buying your own property and developing it and for sale. So talk to us a little bit about that kind of personal journey in working the business the way you are. And I'd also love to hear about, because I know you want to talk about, because this is the big thing, right? If I'm going to buy a house, this is the part of the American dream. So talking about not giving up on your dreams, understanding, how to accomplish your dreams, right? How do you get there?
Yeah. So, I believe that as an agent, you should definitely experience being a homeowner on your own. I feel like working with clients and actually having my own home and investing in real estate, renovating my house. I have land that I'm going to be building another house on. These are all things that I think are good assets to me as an agent, because I could see it from the perspective of a homeowner. I could see the perspective of someone that's perhaps a first time home buyer that's reluctant and scared or confused and not understanding the process, because I myself have gone through the experience a few times, right? So I also am a landlord, so owning property and renting it out, these kind of perspectives, I feel are attributes that you as an agent, you need to experience, because it gives you a whole nother perspective on your clients and understanding their psyche, right? So
It's continuing education, the master's course, because you're actually
yeah,
living it and doing it. Yeah.
yes, and that's another thing. We are always continually educating ourselves. We have credits that we have to uh to abide by, and there's certifications that I'm always learning about. So like I said, I'm a certified mentor. I just became a New York State broker. So I'm learning constantly, because like I said, the law is always changing, especially in this COVID crisis. We had so many different laws that were changed in the course of these past 6 months, that you have to be on top of it. You have to be an agent that's hungry and also willing to educate yourself, so that you are always in the parameters and the guidelines of what New York State is saying, right? We have this whole new anti-discrimination form that has to be signed at the inception of meeting a new client, right? So I can't show you a property unless you actually sign this form. We also have COVID disclosure forms that need to be signed before I can even show you a property, right? So it's just knowing exactly your parameters, always looking for more information, and that's what I really pride myself is just being educated and informed, so that I can be a competent agent on behalf of my clients.
So I know you're starting a family now. You're developing all these mentor agents underneath you. You're a great delegator. What does the future look like for you? What are your plans as you jump into the many sort of road building pieces of your career here? I know that you just got the New York broker certification, which is just amazing. Congratulations again on that. So what does the future look like? Where do you kind of see yourself in, 10 years or so?
So I feel as if my future is pretty bright. I did a lot of legwork in order for me to prepare for my family, right? I was that woman that wanted everything. I wanted the career, I wanted the husband, I wanted the house, I wanted everything in order before I could actually build and bring a new life into this world, right? So I'm very fortunate and I'm very blessed that I have a great support system that's going to help me, because I apparently chaos is going to ensue, and it's going to ensue very quickly as a first-time mom. So I'm going to need as much help as possible, because I do not want my business to be affected, right, in a negative way. So I've been recruiting more agents that I know that are competent, that are ready, and that are hungry, and that will represent my brand, right? And so I feel as if in the future, my business is going to continue to grow. I'll have more agents underneath me. I'll be reaching more areas and more listings in the lower Hudson Valley. I feel like we're in a great time in real estate where things are booming, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of what's going on in the industry at this time in the lower Hudson Valley in New York. I want to be more involved in the community. I want to perhaps sit on certain boards in my local town. I just think that home ownership, you have a voice, right? And I feel as if sometimes you don't have a voice when you're just a renter. but being able to get involved in legislation, get involved in representation also, I think, is very important. And that's very important to me as a realtor, to educate people that believe that perhaps they could never be a homeowner,
Yeah.
that perhaps never saw that from their parents or their parents' parents. I'm very passionate about letting people, and minorities in particular, the LGBT community as well, let them know that, I'm going to do my best to make sure that you find your home in a community that you feel safe and you feel welcomed in, right? Because your family safety is important, and it's important for you to set roots. I like to think that a house is an anchor, right? It anchors the family. It's a great bonding unit for extended family, and it also makes you more a part of the community. And I think that's really important. I'm passionate about that, so I see that more in my future too, targeting minorities and LGBTQ communities that feel as if perhaps home ownership was not a possibility for them.
That brings to mind, I was listening to you, I was getting chills down my spine, just because I think that's so impactful. We haven't talked about, and I want to jump into like Habitat for Humanity and all these organizations that you're involved in, but just the idea of that level of participation that a home gives you in the community. I'd love to get, I think this is a conversation for another day, but like the urban versus the suburban and rural conversation, because I think that's such a big challenge, especially in urban communities, that there's such a great amount of population, but who actually owns and has a voice in the legislation and all that. I think it's easier to see, or at least it's easier for me to visualize in the suburban community, because once you own a house, which a house is not a building, it's not a skyscraper, right? These are, sort of easier to ascertain, but we have this inequity across the country. And so you get into those conversations in terms of representation. And I think that, especially in the urban setting, I think obviously we know that there's inequity every place, but you talk about barriers for entry. We talked about barriers of entry into real estate, but barriers of entry into home ownership they can feel overwhelming. So helping people to get there is amazing. So talk to us about that in terms of your participation. You have several organizations that you're a part of, Habitat for Humanity, American Red Cross, Boards of Cooperative Educational Services, Association for the Visually Impaired. Tell us, I know it's a lot, but tell us a little bit why you're involved in some of these, and how other folks can potentially help you and get involved as well.
So I feel like I'm not doing enough. I just don't feel like I'm doing enough. But Habitat for Humanity is a fantastic organization that I love to be a part of. Basically, like I said, I am in the process of renovating my house. That's why we're having this outside. You're actually in my backyard right now. So with Habitat for Humanity, I get my hands dirty, right? So it's a whole volunteer-based organization, right? And it's throughout the whole United States of America. And as a realtor, I can go out and actually construct a house that's going to be in those urban areas that you discussed, right? And my most recent project was in Newburgh. And if you're not familiar with Newburgh is located in Orange County. It's in the lower Hudson Valley. And Newburgh is what we're calling a city that's actually turning around, right? We're calling it like a beacon, right? It's going to be fantastic. And because it's in an urban area that was disenfranchised, a lot of minorities live there, a lot of financial inequality in that particular town. So Habitat for Humanity picked that particular town, that particular city to build and renovate and completely restore the downtown Main Street, right? And that builds a whole another sector of minorities that can actually be investors in property, that can actually have roots in the community, that can actually start to invest and gain economic growth in their community, right? Which is really important. The American Red Cross is another volunteer organization that I'm passionate about. I've been involved with American Red Cross for, more than a decade. And it started during the earthquake of Haiti, where I wanted to be involved and volunteer and send care packages back to my parents' homeland, right? That was devastated by an earthquake in 2011. So I'm very passionate about a lot of the organizations that I'm a part of. The BOCES Board of Education that I'm a part of. That's all about youth empowerment and also educating children, because I feel as if as a first time American, sometimes we think that the path to success is only through a college, right? And then you have some students that just don't go to college, right? That they actually succeed and are actually living lucrative careers in trade fields, right? So like your mechanic, your carpenter, your nurse, right? Those kinds of things are really important. So I always contributed back to the BOCES program, because the BOCES program gives young adults at the ages of like 16, 15, 17, 18 an option to go elsewhere instead of going to college. I myself am an NYU graduate, but that education, that institution, I'm still paying for, right? But sometimes that's not an option for people, you know? So I think it's important to just give children other opportunities to see where they could flourish and where they're really passionate about. But I don't think that college necessarily is always the path to success for every child.
Yeah, I agree. And that's coming from a guy that spent the last 24 years, my mission in life is education. Spent the last 24 years a part of a college and career preparation organization in Harlem and NYC. And, I think it's just about opening those doors of opportunity. And if you can show somebody, how they can, through home ownership, real estate investment, through all of these different keys to financial security, how they can take their place and have a voice. I mean, I think that's, if you're preparing somebody that's young to do that, whether they end up going to vocational school or getting a mentorship. I love in terms of your story and transitioning from one career to another, and something that I think we need to pay a lot more attention to, but these opportunities to, mentor under or apprentice under somebody that, is doing it and doing it well, even within the college and traditional education places. Sometimes I feel like, we get so lost in like an instructor presenting at the front of a room, this sort of old school dynamic, that we sort of lose the understanding of, and I go back to, if you've ever been in an Apple store and this guy that may have like tattoos on their neck or, just a kind of geeky looking guy, but he's sitting there and he's like, no, you click it, you walk through it, because that practical experience of you doing it is going to be far more valuable. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to go out and practically use that information because you did it. Right. It's a sort of a simple little thing, but if you're doing it, then you're doing it.
Yeah. What's so funny is my father always said that you learn by doing, you don't learn by watching. Right. Yeah. So that practical hands-on experience, I totally agree with. That's the way I feel, as if it, people really retain the information that they're learning instead of the old school model, like you said, of an instructor just being in the front of a class.
I'm going to take some notes on this, right? And then I'm going to know how to do it.
And I feel like right now it's so fitting, because like your children now are learning in a different capacity, right? And they have to completely switch their brains into how they used to learn before, right? Even college students also are learning now. Just everything is virtual for the most part. There's no more dorming. And
if we're struggling to do a Zoom call or something like that,
right.
The kids are not going to be struggling. They're going to have this down. And it's really interesting because we talk about inequity, and when you talk about real estate in particular, right? So somebody that's young, that's phoning in from a house where home ownership isn't necessarily a thing, or maybe it's a thing, but it's just a scraping by. And you're dealing with somebody that, has benefited from birth, benefited from generations of wealth inequality. And so their background, their literal setting is a different thing. But, getting familiar with the technology, figuring out the Zoom background, it's one of those things that I think, we're in the best time ever to sort of take advantage of the tools that are available to us. I was talking to you about the power of video. I thank you for jumping on here and putting yourself out there. Diane says she's a little camera shy, so hopefully we'll get some great comments coming out of this about how great you are on camera to sort of push that forward. Especially because you're going to probably spend a little bit more time at home with the little one. I always say marriage doesn't change much. Kids change everything.
Apparently. That's what I hear. Yep. And I just wanted to piggyback on what you just said in regards to children that are raised in households that are parents that are homeowners. Statistically, which is so incredible, children that actually grow up in households that are financially stable or are parents who are homeowners, they actually succeed better. Their education goes further, than those that are not homeowners, that are perhaps living in renting situations for, all of their childhood or young adulthood experience. So I think homeownership is really important. And so I always like to say it's the glue or the anchor to the community.
Yeah, I totally agree. We rent, and like a little bit of vulnerability here, just for anybody that's watching. We rent, and one of the big things for us has been like, it's expensive. We live in Westchester, but the idea that my kids
part of Westchester as well,
right? We have really good schools, and so keeping that consistency and that stability because of statistics just like that, but also understanding what my education was like. We moved from, I grew up in New York City, and so, and my wife grew up in Huejotzingo, Mexico. So our education's greatly, greatly different. The education that, my kids are receiving because of where we live, is drastically, dramatically different.
Very important.
Yeah. So it's such a big part. And then that goes into like the whole real estate, the value of the house, right? The school district, so many things. Yeah.
So many different factors that really do play a role into deciding where you actually, land, really. In school district tax, you have some clients that perhaps they're older, they don't have small children, or you have some clients that don't want children, right? And so they don't want to pay for that school district tax if they themselves don't have children that are entertaining and can go into the school system. So these are all factors that, you have to think about as a realtor when you're servicing your clients.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that piece because I think, that also begs the question in terms of representation, across the country, inequity, how we fund our schools, how we fund our education, how we fund, roads, how we fund, and if you're not a homeowner, you don't get a say in a lot of these things. You get the choice that everybody else puts up for you, but you don't actually get a say in who and the people that are chosen in terms of your local elections and all that. So I think that's big. All right. So I want to wrap this up. I really appreciate your time, Diane. Talk to us about, and just so everybody knows, if you want to connect with Diane on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube, you can go down below. The link is down below. And if you're on Facebook, off to the side there. But what are the ways that you would love people to get in touch with you, Diane? And who are you trying to connect with currently?
So you could always reach me on my cell phone. My cell phone has been the same number for the past 15 years. So a text, a call, and I still listen to voicemail. I know that a lot of my millennial peers do not do that. But, I am a millennial that still listens to voicemail. Like Cameron said, you can connect with me on Facebook. I'm also on IG, also on LinkedIn. Now,
so if you want people to connect with you via phone, you can say the number. I won't put the number down in the notes just because I don't want you to get spam calls, but you can certainly say the number over the air.
Yeah, so my cell phone number is 845-596-5485. And like I said, I service all of the lower Hudson Valley. And who I'm looking to connect with in the future are actually more agents, as well as a higher level portfolio client. So I'm looking to tap into the $1 million listing market. I feel as if I've prepared and done a lot of legwork, and so I feel as if I'm ready to tap into that market. And it's a sector that I wasn't really prepared for my first or second year in real estate. And it's a whole nother beast. But I have dibbled and dabbled in it, and I feel as if now I'm ready to actually service that kind of clientele.
I feel like we need to devote a whole nother show to that. That's good stuff.
It's a whole nother kind of clientele.
Absolutely. All right. So I really appreciate this. Again, I'm going to give you the last word and say goodbye, but also talk to us just quickly before you say goodbye to everybody about how folks could potentially help you with some of these endeavors that you're working with, like Habitat for Humanity, American Red Cross, in those situations.
All right. So again, Cameron, I do appreciate this opportunity. You can reach out to me, like I said, in all those platforms. If you want to volunteer or you're looking to volunteer in any of those organizations that I'm a part of, you could also reach out to me in that capacity. I'm looking to actually get more involved in the local Head Start, also with my local board, town board. I live over here in Rockland County, so I'm looking to always expand myself and connect with the community, just so that I feel like I need a better pulse on the market, a better pulse on my target audience, and a better pulse on the community in general. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. And I also want to let everyone know that it's never too late to become a homeowner. It's never too late to follow your dreams, and it's never too late to actually go back to school, So, the sky really is the limit, and we're very fortunate to be in a country that gives us so many opportunities, whereas, in certain countries, you may not even find that. So I am continuously preaching and vowing for the American dream of home ownership for every people, for everyone that's, every person of any kind of race, color, creed, and also sexual orientation.
That's
so
awesome.
I have all kinds of clients. I don't discriminate.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron